What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Engage 8 podcast. I'm your host, Zach, with my two co-hosts, Josh and Mike. Today was a pretty wild slate of 1 o'clock games and a couple of really competitive 4 o'clock games. So we're going to get into that. And we are recording during Sunday Night Football, as always. So we will get to that after we cover all the other games today. Josh, you want to get us started?
Yep, we'll get us started with Thursday Night Football, Jags at Saints. The Saints made a small comeback in this game. The Jags were up by 15, I believe, at one point. They seemed to be dominating the game. Saints couldn't see the end zone. And the Carr pick six really was what put the Saints in a hole that was tough to come out of. But they did end up coming out of it almost. Foster Moreau drops a touchdown. You hate to see he was on the sidelines after the game, just completely devastated. He obviously had what was it? What type of cancer was it?
I thought it was like leukemia.
It might have been. It was leukemia. I'm pretty sure. I think you're right.
That sounds right.
I don't want to be wrong about that, but he had a big comeback in the offseason from that. So this was just big for him to get out there this season. You hate to see that for him.
Hodgkin's lymphoma.
That's what it was. I think was it the same thing as Mechie, or was Mechie leukemia? Regardless, he came back strong, and you hate to see that from him. The Jags offense looked better today, or Thursday, I should say. The Jags offense looked better, and they needed to look good. They've been really struggling so far this season. Their defense has been carrying them, and their defense continued to be great on Thursday night too. And now they're sitting at 5-2, and it's hard to believe any situation where they don't win this division.
Yeah, on the Saints side of things, it really sucks that they couldn't get it done because they fought back and battled really hard. Kamara, he had a really solid game, especially catching the ball once again. He outcaught Olave, even though Olave out-targeted him. I believe Olave had 15, 16, maybe even 18 targets or something this game. Just couldn't get connection with Carr that much. But Kamara, he had 12 for 91 receiving-wise, and then 62 rushing yards, so it was a good game from him. Jags, ETN, he kept his streak of 2 touchdown games going, his third straight game with multiple rushing touchdowns. And unfortunately, Calvin Ridley, he just wasn't there again. He was just, I don't even think he had a single target in the first half, and Jamal Agnew had 6. So I don't even know what the Jags are really doing. They came out with the win. Trevor Lawrence, I don't even think he's playing his best ball yet, and he's leading a 5-2 Jags team, which is kind of impressive in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. You touched on it, Josh. Derek Carr did not play great. He really struggled in the first 2.5 quarters, but after that pick six, he was able to get into a little bit of a rhythm. Once they started hurrying up the ball and getting to the line fast, Kamara had another solid game, 12 catches, 91 yards, and then 17 carries for 62 yards. But they weren't able to overcome the struggles that they had early on offense, and they had a chance late, couldn't get it done. And the Jags defense just continues to play very well. They got a pick six. They played better than their offense. Trevor Lawrence was questionable going into the game with a knee injury. He played all right. You couldn't really see many issues with him. He ran the ball a lot. I think he was their leading rusher with 59 yards, and he had 200 yards and a touchdown to go along with it passing. Christian Kirk had a great game. And like you said, Zach, Calvin really continues to just really non-existent. Hurts me being a fantasy owner in almost every league I'm in. Really killed me. But the Jags continue to win games.
Yeah, as a Calvin Ridley fantasy owner myself, I'm getting to the point where no matter what round I took him in, I don't know if I want to even play him week to week. Like you said, Zach, Trevor Lawrence, I don't think he's played his best ball either. And they're sitting at 5-2 in a division where they get to play the Colts again, and they get to play I like the Texans, but they get to play the Texans again, and they get to play the Titans again. Have they played the Titans yet?
They don't get to play the Colts, but I don't think they've played the Titans yet.
They've already played the Colts twice?
Yeah, they played them week one
and
and then last week.
Wow, I didn't even comprehend the fact that was the second game.
I thought it happened, but like you said, didn't really comprehend.
Oh, for 2 in the first 6 weeks is wild. But yeah, okay, they get to play the Titans maybe twice then. Maybe I'm not sure. I don't remember.
I think they got 2 more.
But that's 2 wins in my eyes. This Jags team might be in play maybe for the number 1 seed in the AFC. Let me just take a look at their schedule real quick. All right, they got Steelers, Niners is tough next 2 weeks. Then they got Titans, Texans, Bengals, Browns. Yeah, they got some tough games in here. But then they finish with Bucks, Panthers, Titans. I don't know. This could easily be a 13-win team and be competing for that number 1 seed in the AFC, especially if the Chiefs, they played better today, but if the Chiefs maybe blow a game to an inferior team, or I don't know, the Ravens do. But overall, I just think if you're a Jags fan, we've said it every week on here, the fact that this defense is so much better than we ever thought they were going to be is just so huge for this team. And they were clamping the Saints until the end of this game. So shout out the Jags, and they get a full mini bye to get Trevor Lawrence right.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it, especially you, Josh, if I'm not mistaken. The Jags, we were talking about all this hype, and you weren't buying it.
Not at all.
And but
Not at all.
they're proving all of us wrong.
It looked good early in the season. That take looked phenomenal early.
Right, because they were underperforming against the Chiefs and the Colts in week 1, but it was they haven't even played their best ball yet, and they're sitting at 5-2. So it's certainly going to be an interesting road to the playoffs for all the top teams in the AFC. Like, we'll get to Baltimore later, probably rather quickly actually, but they look phenomenal. But at times they've looked kind of rough. And same with Kansas City. They against like the Jets, their offense couldn't really find any rhythm, and their defense let Zach Wilson move the ball a few times. But it all depends on like all those other top teams. Buffalo, they fell down, so they surpassed them in the standings. But if they can stay atop the AFC South, then they can definitely make some noise for maybe the number 1 seed, like you said.
Yeah, and two guys I want to highlight on their defense that continue to play great is Darius Williams, the cornerback, and Tyson Campbell, the safety. Those two guys have been incredible for them so far this year. The defense continues to play better than we all thought they would, and it helps them win games, and they're really separating themselves in this division.
All right, moving on here. I'll just rip the Band-Aid off now. Lions at Ravens. Ravens win 38-6. This game was just it was ugly. There's not much I can really say about it. The Lions, if we look deeper into the game, early in the game, the Lions were punting it away on every single drive, and the Ravens actually won the toss and they decided to take the ball to start the game. Something you don't see very often in the NFL. Maybe they knew something going into the game, but that seemed to be the right decision. The Lions' pass rush is not going to get as much of the criticism as they should. I've seen a lot of criticism for the secondary and a lot of the zone concepts. The criticism needs to be on the pass rush. They just couldn't finish plays early. Hutch, I'm not going to give the criticism to. Another week of looking back after the game and seeing 5, 6, 7 holds that were just not called on plays that would have been sacked. They weren't holds. So I'm not even going to touch on that. But the pass rush as a whole just was not finishing plays. I mean, you saw the Lamar play for the first touchdown, or maybe it was the second touchdown. I don't know. It was all blurring together early in the game where he was dancing around for about 15 seconds in the pocket.
I think that was the second touchdown.
Yeah. And then at that point, it kind of felt like this game was going to get ugly if the Lions didn't do anything on offense, and they couldn't. The Lions offense is just as responsible for this loss as the defense. Starting not getting a first down until halfway through the second quarter when your defense is getting torched and just long drive after long drive is just killer. The defense was exhausted. Bugs couldn't even stay on the field because he couldn't battle through 10, 12 play drives over and over and over back to back. I'll give some praise here to Gibbs and Amon-Ra. Gibbs had to step it up today with the injury to David Montgomery last week. He has over 100 yards total. 9 catches for him. His best game so far. He gets in the end zone there at the end. Look really explosive. Amon-Ra, 13 catches today. Just ridiculous. Still stacking up the catches. I don't know if I have a catch leader stats on here, but I would assume he's got to be close to the top. I know he missed a game, but close to the top for sure. And yeah, just a tough game. I have so much to say and nothing to say at the same time.
Well, I don't know exactly what else you want to say. You kind of covered most of the in-game stuff pretty well, but I'll just start out by saying this. I tweeted this earlier this afternoon. I'm not worried about the Lions. I'm really not. Sometimes you just on the road, you just have a bad game. And this is what I feel like it was. Lions, they're not completely healthy. They were missing their lead back, who you've said multiple times, Josh, maybe a top 5 season in the league right now as a running back, which former Bear, I love him. I'm all for that propaganda. But the Ravens on their side, Lamar, this was the Lamar Jackson that we were thinking we would see every game from the start of the year. Him getting all those shiny new toys like OBJ and Zay Flowers in the first round of the draft. And then he was also running the ball really well too. Gus Edwards, he had that nice 80-yard catch on the dump off to the right side. And then And then he
That play
also
was
had
ridiculous. That was ridiculous.
it was so funny. It really was.
That and the
Like
fucking
it was just
Patrick
one of those where
Ricard
you just
fullback catch. Those two plays were just ridiculous.
games like those just like add on, like, or plays like those just add on, and it's just death by a thousand paper cuts. It really does hurt.
Yeah.
But Gus Edwards, he had a really nice game. Lamar looking like his old 2019 MVP self this game, keeping the ball safe, just getting it to the right guys and the right opportunities. Jared Goff, he didn't have like a bad game, but it was more so just poor what's the word I'm looking for? Not as opportunistic as a passer, I think, where it was just right throw at the wrong time sometimes. Just couldn't move the chains like you mentioned early in the game. But I'm not worried about either of these teams. Obviously, Ravens because they just dominated, and the Lions. I know they're talented. I know their coaching will get behind this. They're not going to burn the tape. They're going to learn from it, and I expect them to bounce back next week against Las Vegas.
Yeah, not really a game you would expect to see from a Dan Campbell-led team. They really just came out flat. They were punked early and never really responded. It's a really rough weekend if you were a Michigan State Lions fan. You lost a combined 87-6 between the two teams, so not a good weekend of football for them. Luckily, they got the Red Wings to keep them going. The Ravens defense continues to show that they're one of the best in the league. Another dominant game. They got 5 sacks on the Lions, who have one of the better offensive lines in the league. And then on the offensive side, Lamar Jackson was just very impressive. 357 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Continues to look like an MVP candidate. And you touched on it, Josh. Jahmyr Gibbs was one of the lone bright spots of the game for the Lions. And same with Amon-Ra, 13 catches, like you said. And Gibbs had his best game so far as a rookie. But the Ravens really just punked the Lions, and the Lions didn't really respond.
Yeah, Gibbs was. It almost seemed like he was getting a little force fed towards the end of the game. There, it was like, I don't know, it might have been like 4 or 5 straight catches he had. It was ridiculous. He was getting a ton of targets, which you like to see in a game where you're getting blown out. You want to give Gibbs some run. He's missed the past couple weeks. People have been clamoring about how he hasn't been getting the workload, but David Montgomery playing so well, so he got to get a lot of touches today. That's great. The Lions, you spoke on the Lions O-line being great. They played really poor today. Goff was under pressure every time he dropped back. It seemed like the run game was not as great as it's been. That's very, very, very partially due to David Montgomery not being in the game, but the run game was not there. The Lions D-line, like I said, they just weren't finishing plays. It seemed like early they were just getting to Lamar. The secondary was clamping up. There was nothing there for him. And so he was just dancing around forever, and they just couldn't finish sacks, diving at legs, just missing him. And like I said in the preview, I thought the Lions were going to win this game. We all did. But the Lions have struggled the past few years against quarterbacks that are mobile, Jalen Hurts, Lamar, and they struggled again today. I don't think this is anything of like, oh, the line. I'm currently watching that Ravens or the Lamar dance around play. Of course, they had to show that during this, but yeah, where was I going? Yeah, the Lions. I don't want it to be anything about the Lions beating up on bad teams and whatnot. I mean, they did get the win against the Chiefs. The Packers are bad, but that's a win in Lambeau. Regardless, they're not going to have many other opportunities this season or in the regular season to prove themselves, I would say. They don't have another game until week 17 against a team over 500 right now. That's the Cowboys. So they have that game in Dallas, and then a lot of games that they should win. I think they go into Monday Night Football against the Raiders in Detroit. I think they're going to just shit on the Raiders. It kind of seems like they're going to come out pretty mad. Dan Campbell's going to be mad all week long, playing an inferior team. They've been dominating the inferior teams. I think they're going to go in there and just shit on the Raiders, and I think that's what they need. And then you got a bye week to get healthy. Get Dave Montgomery back on the other side of the bye, and I think you're looking good. At the end of the day, you're sitting at 5-2 with an easy game next week. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not worried if I'm the Lions. The only thing that I could really take away from this game is that they got to get their run game going earlier. It's hard to do that without your starting running back, like we talked about Montgomery. But Gibbs, like you said, he got a lot of touches late in the game, and only 14 total carries between him and Craig Reynolds. Overall, part of that's due to them just being down the entire game, but they lost the time of possession battle, and they really just couldn't keep the chains moving, and that's kind of just what dug them that really deep hole early on. But yeah, Ravens, I think you can argue their defense is best in the league, up there with maybe Dallas, San Francisco, and Cleveland. We'll get to them in a little bit. I got a lot of good things to say about Cleveland, but Baltimore's defense, they're well coached, they're very disciplined, they're talented all across the board. They've been dealing with injuries a little bit earlier this season, and I think they had a couple guys out today. But yeah, good for the Ravens, just moving on to 5-2 and staying ahead in their really tough division.
Yeah, the AFC North is really looking like a slugfest with the Steelers win that we'll get to later. I do have the reception stats with Amon-Ra. He is third right now. First place is Puka Nacua with 58, Diggs second, 55, and then Amon-Ra is 51 and third. Jamar Chase is fourth with 50. He on the bye this week. And then surprisingly, I just had to say this one, Adam Thielen, fifth with 49. Good for him.
Nakua and who'd you say was second?
Diggs.
They both got to have one more game over Amon-Ra, though, right?
Yeah.
I would assume. Okay.
With injury.
I'm just, yeah, I know they weren't hurt, but I can't remember if the Rams or the Bills had buys. I don't believe they have had buys, so.
I don't believe so either. But
regardless, those guys are getting a ton of catches.
Yeah. The Lions, Dan Campbell's going to have them ready to go next week, I'm assuming, against the Raiders. And they're going to have a chance to just stomp on the Raiders, who look poor this week, and hopefully have a good bounce back win. So big win for the Ravens to really stay hot this year in that tough division.
I was going to say moving on to the Raiders at Bears, but Zach made a comment about how he has a lot to say about Cleveland. So we'll move on to Cleveland at Colts. This game was pretty wacky on all aspects, I think, to say the least. I think that's a good word to use to describe it. Deshaun Watson gets hurt at the 3:03 mark of the first quarter. So we're back to the PJ Walker show and Deshaun's first game back. I believe he got cleared from concussion protocol. Not positive on that, but
he did.
He did? Okay. Well, that's good. Hopefully they can get him back soon.
He tweaked his shoulder a little bit. It hurt.
Is that what he said? Is that what they were saying? It was at first. I didn't have the volume.
They just said he felt a little something. Not even, I don't even know. He's just a pussy.
Because I thought it was shoulder at first. And then all of a sudden I saw he cleared concussion protocol. So I was like, I don't know what the hell that was. But the refs stole this game from the Colts late. Mike, you'll get into it with the phantom PI or whatever they called it on the Amari Cooper play. And then what was the one
illegal
on the fumble?
Contact.
Illegal contact on the fumble. Right?
On the fumble, yeah.
The fumble was illegal contact. Yeah. But yeah, either way, the Colts got robbed late in this game. If you're a Colts fan and you want to lose games and tank, congratulations. You got given one. If you're one that wants to win games, I hate that you had to see it go down that way. I'll give credit to both teams, though. Both teams played really well with their backup quarterbacks, and really insane to see what Gardner Minshew did against the league's best defense after playing horrible last week in Jacksonville. Just add the Colts to the list of teams that I don't know what to think about.
I'll kind of stay off the Colts for a little bit, so you can take care of that one, Mike. But for the Browns, who knows what's going on with their quarterback situation? They got arguably one of the worst just quarterback carousels, it feels like, in the league, yet they're still somehow winning games like this. Whether it was gifted to them, I'll let you take care of that, Mike. But Jerome Ford, he impressed early before his injury with that long 69-yard touchdown in the first quarter, I believe on their first drive. And Myles Garrett, how about him? As of now, I think he's my defensive player of the year pick, and it's really not close. So I don't have much else to say. I kind of just want to hear you go off, Mike. So go on.
I thought you said you had a lot of good things to say.
Yeah, you did say that.
Most of them were Myles Garrett. I'm gonna be honest.
Myles Garrett was the only good spot for the Browns today. Their team did not play great at all. They struggled everywhere. They couldn't pass the ball. They couldn't really run the ball after that big run by Jerome Ford. The Colts defense on that big run was really missing Grover Stewart, who we said was suspended. And the Colts, they were the better team for the entire game. They shot themselves in the foot multiple times. Myles Garrett, I mean, he makes plays where he just won the game. It was like a Lawrence Taylor performance. I hadn't known that you could just jump the offensive line on kicks until today, because every time someone does it, it's always a flag. But
I think it's because they touch the center.
Yeah, I guess you just can't touch them. So if you have a good enough vert, you can just jump. I'm surprised teams don't get guys who can do that. But the Colts, they really deserve to win this game. The illegal contact, I just don't understand. He initiated contact with the defender, just ran over the defender, and I guess that's a flag for illegal contact. So the defender isn't allowed to get ran over by the receiver anymore. So just ridiculous. Gardner Minshew, he played great except for the turnovers. He has 8 turnovers in his 3 games where he started at quarterback now. So he's really got to get that figured out, especially the fumbles. That's the big issue. Jonathan Taylor had a great game. His first really good game. Him and Zach Moss really split the backfield. They both got 18 carries. Taylor was more effective. He had 75 yards and a touchdown. Alec Pierce had his first good game of the year, really. He only had 3 catches for 53 yards, but he played great. Josh Downs, he's looking like possibly the best rookie receiver right now. Another game, 5 catches, 125 yards and a touchdown. And then Michael Pittman was really quiet all day, had a drop that was a little bit of an inaccurate throw by Pittman, but on the next possession, he gets a catch and takes it to the house for a touchdown. Just the refs late in the game really took the game over. In the first half, the Colts were going on a nice drive. They got the first down on 3rd and 3, and all of a sudden, play ends and they throw the flag for a holding. They showed it. It really didn't look like a holding on Will Fries. Next play, the Colts lose 5 yards, have to kick a 58-yard field goal, I think, and Myles Garrett blocks it. 10-point swing right there, maybe 6. But just the refs really took this game over. It's the most infuriating thing as a fan. And you touched on it. If you want the Colts to lose, it might have been a good thing. But I think at this point, the way I look at it, last year you tanked. This year you have a new coach, a new system. You want to get a good culture in there. You want a winning culture. You don't want to be like the Bears, get a new coach, tank 4 years in a row, and have to do it again with a new coach. You want to establish a winning culture early and just really be able to just develop off that. And the Colts played great. They put 38 points on the league's best defense, and just hurts.
What was I was watching this one was on one of the red zone screens for me. On the Pittman touchdown, what was the flag for? Because they threw the flag.
Taunting.
Yeah, it was taunting at the end, yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I was confused.
He threw up the deuce on the way into the end zone.
Oh, right. I forgot he did that. Yeah, that's a guaranteed flag now for some reason, which is ridiculous. But I don't have much else to say about this game. I kind of just want to get it back to Mike and let him go at it again. But the only thing I got to say is, as a Lions fan who has had many of these games where you feel like you did everything right and you got absolutely robbed by the stripes, and then watching my team go out there today and go down 35-0 and look helpless, I will take the helpless loss and losing by 30 all day over the close loss where you get robbed by the refs. There's really just nothing worse than that. It's an infuriating feeling. I'm happy during the 2017 or no, 20 it was 2020 game against the Packers. The Hands of the Face 2019, one of those.
I remember that game. Yeah.
If we had the podcast during that game, that was a Sunday night too, I believe, or it might have been Monday.
I was infuriated watching that game for Lions fans.
Yeah, that was multiple times. But yeah, I would just say I'll take a blowout loss over that all day. So that's all I
got. Just one last thing for me. I was happy with how the Colts used Jonathan Taylor and how he performed today. He did have that one drop. But other than that, I think he played well. So yeah, that's it for me.
On the Colts defensive side of the ball, just shout out to Kenny Moore. He really struggled last year. He's really struggled since the Jacksonville debacle in 2021 where we blew the season. But he had another great game today. He's been great all year. He had a sack and a half today. DeForest Buckner played great again. Zaire Franklin, Darius Leonard was solid. This team they're tough. They play hard. They really wanted to win this game for the fans, and they were just robbed by the referees, giving them multiple chances. Just really frustrating. Part of what happened late, Darrell Baker was in the game. Julius Brents got hurt with a quad injury.
Yeah, that's right.
Just the Colts rookie class has been riddled with injuries. Class I was very excited for. Multiple guys. I think 4 are already out for the season, and now Julius Brents is hurt. So Darius Rush was cut. Just the rookie class had so much promise, and it's just getting really banged up right now. So you don't like to see it. The Browns won. Deshaun Watson, like I said, he looked terrible. I think if they kept him in, the Colts might have won the game because he would have turned the ball over more. They were better off with PJ Walker just not getting any yards than keeping Deshaun in there. But Deshaun Watson just doesn't look like the quarterback anymore, and he has a fully guaranteed contract, which is just terrible for the Browns organization. They're not going to like that. And Stefanski was able to get it done. Myles Garrett won him the game. Good win, I guess.
I like how Deshaun's the one guy on social media that if he gets hurt, you're allowed to celebrate. Everyone takes that opportunity.
I'm not happy that he got hurt. I wish he would have been fine.
Yeah.
because he was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, and that was another play. Kenny Moore got an interception on that play. They reviewed it. I kind of thought he caught it, but the refs overturned it, said he didn't catch
I,
it.
I will say I do think that one did hit the ground.
I mean, then you go watch a Chargers game, and the same thing happens with Josh Palmer. They rule it a catch. So
Social media quarterback, I guess.
Yep. Social media quarterback couldn't get one social media point in the second half, but
struggles to get a social media win.
Yeah, can't do anything right over there, but I will gladly get to the Chargers very soon. But moving on here, to a team that I wish got robbed by the refs, the Bears beating the Raiders. Tyson Badgett looked really good for the Bears. Some would say better than Fields. I am some. He looked great. He has the same amount of wins as Fields now this season, in a season where all Bears fans were expecting this big jump from Fields. He's going to turn into a passer now. We're going to win a ton of games. And
MVP candidate.
We're in week 7. Badgett has the same amount of wins as him. Bears defense, 3 good weeks in a row playing good defense. That's huge, especially when you have no answers at quarterback, even though they might have the answer now. Wouldn't it be funny if he just ended up being great? That would be not too good, though. Just good enough where they can't get Caleb Williams or Drake May, and where you don't want to put Fields back in. But AOC looked a little bit better than Brian Hoyer in the time he was there, but the game was kind of over at that point, so it was kind of drawn up for him to look okay. But either way, I don't really understand why Hoyer started this game to begin with. I got to assume it's AOC in Detroit next Monday, but who knows?
If you would have told me that the Bears won a game by multiple scores against the Raiders, I would have assumed that the offense went nuts and just dominated the entire game. And that was still kind of the case, but the defense was really the story of this game. Mainly the front 7, especially those big money linebackers that you guys like to say, Jermaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards. Them along with Billings, Ngakoue, Justin Jones, Jack Sanborn made a couple nice plays too in the backfield, held the Raiders to under 40 yards rushing for this game, and this is the second straight game that they have allowed under 50 total rushing yards. So that's really impressive by a team that the front 7 was considered one of the weaknesses coming into the season. Tyson Badgett, I think he played well for what he was asked to do. He wasn't asked to throw the ball further than 15 yards the entire time, and his longest completion was to DJ Moore on a scramble drill play, which is really impressive. DJ Moore played really well today, as he has like every single game. But offensively, the story was D'Onta Foreman, 2 touchdowns on the ground and one on a little check down to the flat on the right side, and he took it in for a touchdown. But back to the defense, Jalen Johnson, career interceptions number 2 and 3, and his first career touchdown. So that's really nice to see. The knock on Jalen all these years was that he didn't create turnovers, and he didn't have like all the interception numbers that guys like Xavier Howard or Trayvon Diggs, who was taking a pick after him, have. But he's a lockdown corner. He really is. When he's healthy and at his best, he can play with the best of them. I love watching him play. He's really good. I think the one PI call on him was a little bit questionable, but I can understand why they threw it because he never turned his head around. But I would love for the Bears to extend him. I really do. Nice 4 or 5 year deal for around like 13 million a year. I think that's a phenomenal deal for both sides. But yeah, I was shocked that the Bears came out and dominated like this with a undrafted free agent quarterback. I just think that's phenomenal. I don't know how the coaching really spun that around, but it was crazy.
Yeah, speaking of PI, I didn't even mention the pass interference in the end zone of the Colts game. That was icing on the cake.
The Mark Hoover one?
Yeah, I don't think Victor Wembanyama with like the vertical of Nate Robinson could have caught that football. Just completely uncatchable, but we're talking about the Bears now and the Raiders. So really embarrassing for Josh McDaniels today and the Raiders team. This is a game where you're playing one of the worst teams in football, and they just got punked, really. After the game, he said it's not preseason anymore in terms of deciding to start Hoyer over AOC. So he's saying that Hoyer or AOC is like a preseason.
Wait, who said that?
McDaniel said that.
Wow.
Really?
He said it's not preseason anymore. But 2 weeks ago, he started AOC over Brian Hoyer.
That was preseason.
Was it preseason in week 4?
Yeah, it was.
Just Josh McDaniels, just really rough job coaching so far. He should be fired at the end of the season. I guess maybe the Raiders still can't afford it, but he should be.
Mark Davis broke boy.
Yeah, just like you said, Josh, I really don't understand why they decided to start him over AOC. Uh, but they were able to, I think, score 6 points with Hoyer in there, and they just didn't look good. Bears defense dominated, and Donta Foreman dominated the Raiders defense. Max Crosby really couldn't get much going, and just the Raiders aren't very good. They're not in that middle category.
Yeah, I mean, I just went and watched back those Jalen Johnson picks because I knew I saw one of them. I didn't know which one was which. The pick six was a great play. He looked phenomenal, obviously, on that play. The second one was a gimme. I mean, that was a ball that was going to be caught by one of the three Bears, and no chance that was going to be a completed pass. Because I don't know if I would go in there and being like, oh, 2 picks, he was creating turnovers. That was a created. That was a given one. But regardless, the Bears played great. They're sitting at 2-5 now. They're one of 3 2-win teams in the NFC North. We'll get to the Packers later. And the Lions are still sitting there at 5-2, 3 games up. Or I guess not yet, 3 games up, but Vikings are losing tomorrow night. Yeah, the Bears are in a good spot. They're gonna they might fuck around and end up not getting a top pick and being towards the 8-9 range. That would be great. We still need the Carolina Panthers to put together some wins here. We're not out of it yet, NFC North fans. We're not out of it yet. But we're getting some wins that we need. Let's get the Bears to around 5 or 6 wins. Let's will them there, and then they're not getting the number 1 pick anymore from them, at least. Panthers, let's work on getting one, and we'll build off that.
That's my kind of dream. There is like we finish with like maybe 5 or 6 wins, and we see like a lot of progress from the younger players. And Darnell Wright was phenomenal today. I think the only mistake he really had today was that false start, and he was across from Max Crosby a majority of the game, and he played phenomenal. You don't hear his name often because he doesn't make mistakes, or at least not a lot of them. He's been phenomenal, and I meant to say this like 3 or 4 weeks ago, but Jalen Carter can turn out to be Aaron Donald, and Darnell Wright will turn out to be like Lane Johnson, for example. Not saying he's going to be, and people are going to keep saying that Poles passed on the next great like pass rusher, the next great interior pass rusher, because he traded back from 9 to 10 and let the Eagles take Carter, even though Darnell Wright may be a phenomenal pick. And
no disrespect to Lane Johnson. I think I would much rather have Aaron Donald.
The best defensive player of all
time. No, I know. I'm just saying, like, Darnell Wright can be a phenomenal player, but if Jalen Carter is also a phenomenal player, they're always just going to hold that over Poles' head. Or just Darnell Wright's head, or even just the Bears organization in general.
It's not Darnell Wright's fault. I mean, he's not going to.
I know it's not his fault, but it's just still they've both been phenomenal this year, I will say. But yeah, I mean, am I crazy to say that the Bears are like 2 or 3 plays away from being 4-3? Because if they don't have that horrendous 4th down call against the Broncos and choke that game away by running an inside zone to the weak side of their O-line, and then they give the Broncos the ball back and they go down and get 3. And then if Badgett last week doesn't get strip sack fumbled on his second ever snap as a NFL quarterback, I mean, you're tied at 13 and you may have a chance to go down and get 3. Maybe you beat Minnesota then.
I don't think they beat Minnesota. I'll give you the Denver.
Probably not. But still, I mean, that's like 2 or 3 like big plays from like being a 500 or above 500 team. Which is,
you can say that about almost every team.
I know, but like there's just I feel like it can't go unsaid. I'm not saying the Bears would be. I'm not saying the Bears would be a good 4-3 team. The Bills, they're a good 4-3 team. The Bears would have been a bad 4-3 team. But it's nice to see that the defense is really playing well, and they've just got their feet under them after the poor 3-game start that they had to the season.
Yeah, and shout out Nathan Peterman for coming in and going to throw a Hail Mary, and he just threw it like completely out of bounds. I guess after the game, what did Eberflus say? He has a rocket arm, so he put him in. So shout out to him.
Eberflus doesn't know how to handle himself after a win.
He's not used to it, man.
He has no idea how to handle himself.
The Raiders, back to the Raiders. Their running game, it's just regressed completely from last year. Josh Jacobs only had 35 yards on 3.2 yards per carry. It's really disappointing considering he was maybe the best running back in the entire NFL last year. And I was hoping they would get the ball to Michael Mayer again like they did last week, but they really didn't get that done. He only had 2 catches for 13 yards. Just really disappointing game for the Raiders. Their pass game struggling, their run game struggling. They're only 2 of their 3 wins are against the Packers and the Patriots, which really aren't that high quality of wins. So the Raiders, they're not really in. They're going to be about a top 10 pick range. And next week they get to go up against an angry Lions team, like we mentioned.
Yep. I mean, about time the Bears got to be going on the road here soon, right? They've had like a month in Chicago now. It feels like
it's just
right?
2 games.
3.
It's their second.
Was the Broncos not in Chicago?
Well, yeah, but then they went on the road to the Commanders.
Oh, for some reason I thought it was Broncos Vikings. Now I forgot about the Commanders game. Forgot about the Commanders game.
Of course, you want to forget about the Commanders game.
Yeah, I
do. Of course you do. Of course you do.
It seems like you have the way you're doing about Badgett now, but
I wasn't even talking that crazy about Badgett.
Speaking of the Commanders, won't forget about them here. Commanders at Giants. Howell sacked 6 times. Almost unbelievable at this point. He's going to get the record. I mean, he's probably going to smash the record. So just a disappointing game once again from the Commanders O-line. 12 punts in the first half of this game, 18 punts total. Honestly, I just didn't really give a fuck about this game when it was going on. It was hard to care at all. I was betting on this game and I still just couldn't even bear myself to put it on one of the 4 screens. But 1 touchdown drive this whole game. The other 2 touchdowns were short field, like off a pick, and then one was off a muff punt. So just no offense in this game. And Commanders, we said it earlier this week, this is a game you have to win to be a serious team. And they did it again, and they lost another game that they shouldn't have lost. And I'm starting to get to the point where I think they're more of a bad team than they are a mid team.
Yeah, I didn't see too much of this game, honestly. I was too busy watching my Bears somehow kick the snot out of the Raiders, and I was watching the Colts at the same time, just getting their snot kicked in by the refs.
You weren't watching the Lions?
I was just about to get to that. I was keeping track of the Lions game because they were getting the shit kicked in. It was great. So I didn't see too much of this game, but I think the main thing I can take away from this one is that if you feed Saquon, good things are gonna happen. He had 77 yards on the ground, and then he had that really nice 30-yard reception to the flat, and just honestly, no one was guarding him. So he just had like 20 yards of free running room, and then just made a bad miss and got into the end zone. So that was impressive-ish. And Darren Waller, the Giants in general got their first home touchdown and their first half touchdown. So that was a round of applause for them. So that was certainly impressive. But Tyrod Taylor, there's really no difference between him and Mac Jones. Just one's a little bit faster, I guess. I don't know. But Commanders, they underwhelming. I hope Sam Howell gets sacked 100 times this year. I want to see the triple digits. I think that'd be hilarious. But they got Terry McLaurin a little bit involved, but a little too late. I think he only had like 1 catch or 1 target going into halftime or something like that. So it wasn't great. And defensively, I expected they played fine defensively, actually. But offensively, I expected so much more out of them.
Yeah, and you touched on the home touchdowns and all that. This was their first one in 3 games on the offensive side of the football.
Right.
220 minutes and 42 seconds without an offensive touchdown.
That's disgusting.
That's a long time. And you touched on it, Darren Waller finally involved. That's really what I've been wanting them to do most of the season. 7 catches, 98 yards, and a touchdown. And Tyrod Taylor, he looked all right out there. He looked better than Daniel Jones has looked this year. 279 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Hyatt, we've been talking about him getting more opportunities. He only had 2 catches, but 74 yards. And we talked about on the preview that the Giants' defensive line really hasn't pressured quarterbacks much, hasn't got many sacks, and they go and get 6 sacks against the Commanders' O-line, which has been terrible. You touched on getting the sack record, Josh. I think the sack record is 76, and right now they're at 40. So that's got to be on pace. After the game, Jonathan Allen was visibly frustrated, very frustrated, said he's tired of this shit, just like Garrett Bowles with the Broncos a couple weeks ago. He's been there for 7 years and hasn't won. And I like Ron Rivera, Riverboat Ron, but it seems like it's starting to get to the point where it might be time for the Commanders to move on.
All right, I don't have much else about this game, except for the fact that the Commanders just continue to be an impossible team to predict. Like I said, they're going to go on and win a game they shouldn't win probably soon here, as we see a AJ Brown touchdown in this Sunday Night Football game here. But I think the Commanders are probably going to go win a game they shouldn't. Maybe they go and beat the Eagles or something. But overall, I just think this is going to be a team that's you're just tossing darts at a dartboard and hoping you're right.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, with both of these teams, honestly, except the Giants, they don't have the weapons around Daniel Jones or Tyrod Taylor aside from Saquon. But the Commanders, they have a solid defense and they've got kind of a running game, I guess, with Chris Rodriguez. He was solid today, and Brian Robinson, who's okay for the most part. But they got Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson, who continues to be underutilized. So I wish they would use him a little bit more. But yeah, Giants, I mean, luckily for me as a Bears fan, Giants winning is very clutch because draft position purposes. But yeah, other than that, I don't have much else.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Jahan Dotson, and I feel like he is getting underutilized, but after watching last week and this week, he's going into the draft. He had some of the best hands in that draft class, and this year he's not shown that. He's struggled with drops. He had the play on the fourth down today where he should have caught it. Last week he had a chance to really have a massive gain and just a bad drop. So it's really sad to see that he's struggling with drops. I hope he figures it out. And like you said, Terry McLaurin had a nice game. I don't really know what to expect from either of these teams, like you guys said. Just tough, and hope that Riverboat Ron can find it out, but I really don't see that happening. So good win for the Giants.
All right, moving on here. Bills at Pats. Wow, is all I gotta say. The Bills went from blowing out bad teams early after the Jets lost to almost losing back-to-back games against the Giants and the Patriots, two of the worst teams in the league. Josh Allen interception on the first play really just killed Buffalo from the start. We've said a million times on here, if he can't take care of the ball, there's going to be problems with his team, especially with the injuries on defense, and that was the case today. The Bills' offense was just non-existent in the first half. They just couldn't get anything going. And then by the time they did start getting stuff going, they kind of just ran out of time and couldn't figure it out. The Pats tried to give the Bills this game late. They really did. But then they locked in for that last drive, and shout out Mac Jones, shout out Gesicki. The Pats went in there at home and got a win against a far superior team.
Yeah, this is another one of those games where I'm very happy that the Patriots won for Bears draft position. But Mac Jones, he played really well today. He made very little mistakes, and he relied on his almost non-existent run game. But Zeke found the end zone today, so that was nice to see. Kendrick Bourne had the lone. No, he did not. Okay, so it was Bourne and Gesicki with the touchdowns. My bad. But like we were just talking about, Josh Allen with that interception really just killed the momentum from the start. They were working from behind the entire time, and then Mac Jones clutched up at the end. Patriots, they had no business winning this game or really being in it from the jump. We all know what the Patriots are. They're a very lackluster team in terms of like star talent, and Buffalo, they've got that all over the board. Like first round rookie Dalton Kincaid, he played really well today. Kind of his first little showing as an NFL tight end. Stephon Diggs made his weekly appearance in the end zone. Per usual. But yeah, I look at this Bills team up and down. They're not a 4-3 team. They're 5-2 at worst, in my opinion. And two really ugly road losses against the Jets and the Patriots could really cost them come January for seeding in the playoffs.
Yeah, hopefully they just have to hit their stride late in the season and get hot. But right now they're 1-3 in one possession games, which you don't want to see. And like we said last week, they flirted with the loss to the Giants, and this week they just lost the game. Shout out Bill Belichick. He got his 300th career win. He's only the third coach to do that. So good for him. Mac Jones had his probably best game of the season, 272 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then in the rushing attack, I was surprised to see that Ezekiel Elliott outcarried Ramondre Stevenson, I think 12-1. Mac Jones, like I said, great 75-yard 2-minute drive to win the game winning drive. And looking at the receivers he's throwing to, these aren't really receivers that you'd expect to see on an NFL team. Just not really weapons. Kendrick Bourne, he's all right. Demario Douglas, Ramondre Stevenson, Pharaoh Brown, tight end, he got cut from the Colts in the preseason. They picked him up. Hunter Henry had 2 catches. And then Jalen Reagor, Devontae Parker, and Gesicki. Just very interesting to see from a Bill Belichick structured team. They've never really had great receivers, and it's just interesting to see.
Yeah, and they break through and they get a win they shouldn't. They go and they get blown out at home a couple weeks ago by the Saints, who are just a horrible team by all aspects. And then they go out and beat one of the best teams in football in the Bills, who was a team before last week that we looked at as, okay, they're going to go out there and they're going to beat up on the bad teams and they're going to fight in games like the Dolphins where they're playing against good teams. That wasn't the case today. Just kind of completely shocking to see, really, even after last week where they let the Giants hang in there. You see the Giants go get a win this week. The Giants have proven to be a little bit scrappy. This Pats team didn't really look ever like they were going to be a scrappy team. And then they go and they win this game against the Bills. Bills are sitting at 4-3 now, and man, they really shouldn't. I mean, they got this loss, which is a bad loss this week. They have that bad loss week 1 in the Aaron Rodgers, Zach Wilson game, and then what is their other loss here? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Week
But
1?
no, they got week 1, and then this week they have 3 losses, right?
Right here, I'll look it up.
Let's see. Jaguars. That's right, London game.
Right.
Where they played just really bad. But the Jaguars are a good team, so I wouldn't call that a bad loss. But this team really should be sitting at 6-1 with 2 horrible losses. And you hope come playoff season, especially if they can't win this division over the Dolphins, you really hope that these bad losses don't cost them seeding and have them playing the Chiefs in the first round.
Yeah, that would be really gross. And honestly, I think these last couple games we're really seeing the effects of them just getting all these injuries. You're getting guys playing valuable snaps that weren't really expecting it, and they're taking the place of superstars like Tre'Davious White, for example, who was out for the year. Like you've got young corners or just inexperienced corners in general asked to fill a role that they're really just, quite frankly, not ready for yet because Trey White is just that good. So I think last week with the Giants, that really just ugly game, but really exciting. That and this week they're really missing some of their key guys on defense like Matt Milano and Trey White. And it's just like I said before, playoffs are going to be real interesting if they can't figure out how to continue to beat up on those bad teams and do it convincingly, or even just not win at all like they did this week. But playoffs, yeah, like you said, Josh, if they match up with the Chiefs first round and they're not healthy and they don't have a chance to like get hot before the playoffs, they could just be one and done.
They could be, and they have to be careful. They have to start winning these games, and they're falling behind from the Dolphins here now a little bit. If the Dolphins can pull off a win tonight, they'll be 2 games back. They really, on the offensive side of the ball, on both sides, really, they just had too many penalties. They were never able to get into rhythm. And as the year goes on, they've started to fade off. So, like you said, Zach, hopefully those injuries really don't catch up to them. Hopefully they're able to bounce back. Just rough loss for the Bills and the Patriots. I think Patriots fans were kind of angry that they won, hoping for better draft position, but a win is a win. First win with the Lighthouse.
Yes, first win with the Lighthouse in Foxborough. Moving on here, Falcons at Buccaneers. Ritter managed to fumble 3 times this game and lose all 3 of his fumbles.
In the red zone.
Were they all in the red zone?
I think so, yeah.
I know 2 of them were in the red zone.
All
Yeah,
three were in
no
the red zone.
cover. That's wild, but didn't throw a pick today and got a road win. So you got to give that to him. Bijan was sick, apparently. He only got 1 touch this game. If you're going to do that, not really sure why you just even have him dress at that point. But they did, and they gave him 1 touch and had every fantasy owner sick today, ironically. But Algier, Patterson, and Ritter all picked up the rushing slack from Bijan and played really well against a solid run defense. They had 156 yards rushing on 38 attempts. They played really well overall. And this is just a really big win for the Falcons. We said it going into this week that this could be a very convincing win for them. They've had some losses that are questionable, especially after the Commanders lost today. But they go into Tampa Bay and they beat a Buccaneers team that has a really good defense and whose offense has played well at times. And this is just, like I said, a huge win for them. And now they're sitting at first, sole possession of first in the NFC South. And they are the only team in this division to get a win this week, as the Panthers are on bye and then the Saints lost on Thursday. And then they obviously beat the Buccaneers today.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Panthers did lose this week to the bye, but that's still remained to be seen with the results coming in of this Sunday night game. But yeah, this is a divisional game. This was your classic NFC South divisional game. Really low scoring, really just had to grit it out, a couple turnovers. And Baker, he wasn't terrible. He definitely could have been better, but Mike Evans kind of bailed him out a couple times. He found the end zone again today. And Ritter, I think we saw the good passing Ritter this week. He was finding his targets not often, but he was getting the ball to him in the right ways, especially not having Bijan for the first time this year. So that was kind of probably a shock to a lot of people, like you said, Josh, especially to the fantasy owners. But yeah, Falcons, they pull into first of the NFC South, which is really huge in a division where the top three teams were all very, very close going into this week. And luckily the Falcons kind of pull ahead with the Bucks and Saints both losing. So that was really fortunate for them. And I think that's about it. I didn't catch too much of this game because I was preoccupied with other games.
Yeah, you touched on it, Josh. The 3 red zone fumbles from Desmond Ritter. You hate to see it. I mean, you can't have it. Last week it was 3 interceptions. This week it's 3 fumbles. And the Bijan Robinson injury, I've been hearing it is a case of arthritis. I think Arthur Smith hates fantasy football owners more than anything in the world. I think that is why he became an NFL coach, to just piss off fantasy football owners. But Pitts in London today, they really didn't have a lot. London had a couple catches. Really was kind of a boring game, but it's going to happen when you have the Falcons and Buccaneers playing. Falcons fans, they're getting sick of Desmond Ritter at this point. 3 red zone fumbles. You cannot have it, especially in the red zone. And just somehow they were able to pull out a win. They did just enough. Their defense played great. And the Buccaneers side of the football, they really continue to have no run game. And they're relying on Baker Mayfield to win them the games too much at this point. He wasn't able to get it done today. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin both had all right games. And Young Ho Koo, one of the best kickers in the NFL, was able to kick another game-winning field goal.
Yeah, like you guys said, this game was a pretty boring NFC South matchup, as it always is. These teams kind of just kept matching punts, turnovers, touchdowns, and field goals all game. And it seemed like at the end we were going to see maybe a Bucks backdoor win. But then you have the big play to Kyle Pitts. He runs up the sidelines, and then Young Koo with the game winner. I believe that's his 3rd game winner of the year, and I don't know how many he has in his career, but it's a high number. It just seems like every week he's in a high leverage situation, and he comes through. One of the most clutch kickers in the league. And now Atlanta's sitting at number 1, and let's see how long they can hold it for.
Yeah, unfortunately for Atlanta, or really whoever ends up winning this division, with the quarterback play from each of the 3 teams that might represent the NFC South in the playoffs as divisional champs, they're probably just going to run into a buzzsaw like Dallas or something like that and just probably just get wiped in the first round of the playoffs. But again, it is only week 7, so we've got a long ways to go. But that's what I'm seeing, in my opinion, just because Ritter, we don't know what he is week in and week out. Baker, we know he is a ceiling on him. And the O-line, if he's not protecting him, he'll really struggle. And then Derek Carr, he's battling injuries at the very least so far this year. So unfortunately for whoever wins this division, it's not looking great as of now for playoffs.
I agree, but there's always the one team in a bad division that manages to just randomly pull out a playoff victory. I feel like we see it most years. And both these teams, their defenses both played well. Both defenses tried to win them the game, but the offenses didn't want to do much. I mean, like I said, Desmond Ritter didn't want to win this game with 3 red zone fumbles. But if they got to the red zone 3 times and they didn't get it in, and they still won the game. So I would say they deserve to win the game. Desmond Ritter gets to go home and DoorDash now, so good for him.
All right, moving on here. Steelers at Rams. The Steelers defense and TJ Watt are just elite, man. They're one of the best units in the league, and they're going to continue to keep the Steelers in games all year long. Mike Tomlin, when he's an underdog, especially on the road, he tends to win outright more than he loses, and that was the case again today. The Steelers' offense looked better out of the bye, didn't look great. In all these Steelers games, I feel like their defense just keeps them in it. Their offense doesn't look phenomenal. And then you see one big, long touchdown for the Steelers, whether it's to Pickens or whatever. There's just one good play that puts them in a position to score their one touchdown of the game. That wasn't the case today, but their one touchdown of the game, and then they win it. And they had a couple of those today. So shout out the Steelers offense for figuring it out, getting enough points to beat this Rams team, and then their defense is just going to continue to be elite. Even against the good offenses, they're going to be elite. And the Steelers get a big road win and are sitting at 4-2 now. Don't look now, but the Steelers, they were once looked like a dead team walking, and now they look good.
Yeah, for the Steelers, I really enjoyed watching Deontay Johnson again today. He came off of IR for the first time this season. So that was really nice to see him back and moving. Just this was one of those games where I really forgot that Allen Robinson was on the team until I saw him get that one catch in like the third or fourth quarter, and he was just pointing for a first down, and I don't know if he got it or not, which I thought was really funny because I saw that numerous times when he was on the Bears. But on the Rams side, Stafford, he wasn't his best game. He was very inefficient passing, and they were really missing Kyron Williams, who got thrown on IR earlier this week. But Puka, he made a lot of nice catches today. He made a lot of really nice catches. He separated really well. And Cooper Kupp, he only had 2 catches, which is something you don't see a lot in a game that Cooper Kupp plays first minute to the final minute. So, but Tutu Atwell had that nice 30-yard touchdown, 31-yard touchdown. I think it was in the second quarter. And Pickett, he played good enough. Receiving wise, Pickens kind of carried the load again. But yeah, like you mentioned, Josh, TJ Watt, he had that really crucial interception, and the Steelers defense just kept them in the game. They were down 17-10 at one point, and really defense just held them a lot, and just offense took advantage.
Yeah. Pickett, he played well. Najee added in a touchdown. Their offense wasn't great, but it was pretty good for a Matt Canada-led offense. George Pickens, 5 catches for 107 yards. He had a good game. TJ Watt had another interception. Him and Myles Garrett continue to kind of go back and forth for Defensive Player of the Year. And then late in the game, a rough day for referees. I don't know if you guys saw it. I do not think he got the first down. No, the first down. I'm talking about the first down where they ruled it a first down on the QB sneak for Kenny Pickett. I don't even think he got close. I don't even know if he got a yard. I think he might have lost yards almost.
And they couldn't call timeout.
And they couldn't call timeout to review it. Rough day for the ball and chain because run out the chains. I don't even think he got a yard, but just don't know what you want to see. On the Rams side of the ball, like you said, Zach, Puka Nacua, he looked phenomenal today. And they were missing Kyron Williams, but the run game was still pretty good. 127 yards on 30 carries. I'll take that every day. Rams fall to 3-4, but they're still a very scrappy team and a big win for the 4-2 Steelers now fighting in that AFC North.
Yeah, Darrell Henderson and Royce Freeman are still alive and playing running back. It's wild, but here we are. And they both played well today. I was going to mention the Deontay Johnson play. It was late in the game, late in that fourth quarter. He gets a big PI. He draws a PI that would put the Steelers all but in position to win the game. And he goes and celebrates the PI by waving his finger in the face of the DB, and he gets a taunting, which offsets the PI on third down. I think they ended up converting the third down. I'm not positive, but that was just a wild play, and he got given a gift and just immediately got it taken away. And that was crazy to see in his first game, but good to have him back for this team. He's going to do wonders for this offense. And I like the position that the Steelers are in now. They got Jags, Titans, Packers next 3 games. That's probably 2 wins, and I think they could definitely go compete with this Jags team that the offense has been struggling next week. And all 3 of those games are in Pittsburgh. So I think you could definitely say that there's a chance they go 3-0. And if by some chance they're sitting at 7-2 after those 3 weeks, that would be crazy. But I'm just hoping to see the progression of Kenny Pickett and maybe Matt Canada.
Are each of their next 3 at home in Pittsburgh?
Yep, Jaguars, Titans, Packers.
I thought that's what you said. That honestly changes a lot of things within the AFC North, because if they, like you said, 7-2, that could be real scary for the Bengals, especially because they're still trying to they're fighting from behind right now, which is really unfortunate. But if not having to travel, that's huge for a team. And asking 3 teams to come into your house when you don't have to go anywhere except for your living room and then the facility, which is usually like 20 minutes away at most in your car. So that's huge for the Steelers that they got 3 at home. But yeah, I mean, the Rams, I'm not too worried about them. They'll probably fight for a while. They'll be in the hunt the rest of the year. Stafford's going to clean it up. They were in this game even with him not playing his best ball, and Cooper Kupp wasn't really too involved in the offense. But if Kenny Pickett and Matt Canada can just keep doing enough with the help of this outstanding defense, then yeah, Steelers could be in a fight till like December for this division, and I'm here for it.
Yeah. Just every team could be in the division there. The Browns, they've looked all right. didn't really look great today, but they were able to get the win. And then the Ravens, they've been phenomenal, probably the best team in that division. That division's just you say that three teams making a division isn't very making the playoffs isn't very common, but there's definitely a chance that three teams make it, and all four teams are great in that division. It's going to be very interesting to see, and the Rams, they continue to be scrappy and find ways to stay in games. They just got to find ways to win.
It's not impossible. I mean, it's very close to impossible. I would assume that all four can somehow sneak in. I think they would need the Bills to probably implode. The Chargers will implode themselves. I don't got to worry about them. And then the South is pretty mid after the Jags. So honestly, there might be a chance if the Bengals start to go off and the Bills fall off. That's really the one team that's keeping them from having four. Because after you take all the division winners, I don't think it's that crazy to say that 2 through 4 in the AFC North are better than every team in the AFC outside of the Bills. I don't think that's that crazy to say.
I mean, you kind of touch on the Chargers a little bit. They're sitting at what, 2-4 right now? If they lose next week, prime time against Chicago in LA, do they think about firing Staley?
Is that already thinking about that?
But like,
I don't know if they do it mid-season though.
I don't think they do it mid-season, but that's happening at the end of the season. I think, regardless.
I feel like that if they lose, that might be the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah,
I think the icebergs are already tipped.
Yeah. Might as well move on to that game then, as we were talking about them already. Chargers at Chiefs. Chargers get shut out in the second half, like I alluded to earlier on here. And I want to say shout out to Nick Bolton. Sadly, he dislocated his wrist in the fourth quarter. I know he was on the ground screaming and whatnot. I'm no doctor, but at what point in that injury do you guys know where it just becomes club time? Then he can just play with the club on?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
there's worse injuries a linebacker can have.
Right. I mean, probably 2-3 weeks, depending on like tolerance.
Yeah, because they need to get him back. He is a staple of this defense with Chris Jones. The first score in the second half for either team was at the 3:30 mark in the fourth quarter, with the Chiefs scoring a touchdown. That was pretty wild. You could tell if you were watching the games, especially if you were watching all four games, you could. Wow, what a catch for AJ Brown! You couldn't tell that this game was that dry of an offense in the second half. You could tell it was dry, but when you start to look at the end of the game and it's still 24-17, it was like, Jesus, I can't believe neither of the Chargers and the Chiefs, two have looked at as some of the most prolific offenses in football, no points in the second half until that mark. But yeah, Mahomes and Kelsey were dominant. Big get back game for Patty Mahomes. 4 touchdowns. He had a bad pick, but 4 touchdowns, looked good, and then got a division win. Chiefs are winning the West easily. And you look at the Chiefs are in now 6 straight wins. After that, when lost to the Lions week 1, they won 6 in a row. Chargers are sitting at 2-4 now. Raiders are in second at 3-4, and the Broncos are at 2-5, right behind the Chargers. So I don't know. It might be starting to get time where the Chargers get lost in that division. Who knows?
I mean, we'll get to it in a couple days when we preview Bears Chargers, but Chargers, it's looking like right now, every game from here on out, it's going to be must win in order to keep pace with the Chiefs at least, or at least just the rest of the wild card teams, especially seeing that AFC North just group of teams. But yeah, this game looked like it was the Chargers were keeping pace through the first quarter and a half, it seemed like. Then the Chiefs got that Travis Kelce just shove into the end zone right before halftime, which just kind of ended the Chargers' hopes, honestly, because like you said, Josh, they didn't score the rest of the game. And Mahomes, he was dominant as always, aside from that interception. And Travis Kelce, he was showing off for the Swifties out there. 12 catches for 179 yards and a touchdown. He was everywhere today. But on the Chargers side, Josh Palmer had a really nice game with 5 catches and 133 yards. But Eckler, in his second game back from that injury, it seems like he's not really doing that much. He's not making that many impact plays. He's not getting those 7 or 8 catches a game and just making people miss like he used to. So maybe that injury is still lingering. I know I saw him limping after a play in the at the end of the first quarter, or maybe beginning of the second quarter, where he was limping on the sideline, but he ended up coming back later on. So I didn't think too much of it. But Herbert, I did notice that he was handing off to his right side, even with the broken finger. So he was just flipping his hand around kind of funky. It made me laugh a little bit. But yeah, Herbert has not looked good the last 2 weeks, playing a really good Cowboys defense and a really good Chiefs defense. Really did a number on him. I think he had, was it 3 or 4 interceptions from those 2 games combined? I don't have his stats from last week on hand, but a lot of turnovers against teams that you can't throw the ball over against in order to keep pace with their talented offenses. And yeah, Chargers, they got to fix something real quick.
They have to fix something. Josh Kelly led them in rushing yards wise with 75. Eckler, like you said, struggled. And I was watching, I don't know if it was Fox or NFL Network game day, and they were saying that the Chargers were possibly planning on a big day from Quentin Johnston. And you touched on it last week, Zach, that he's been very disappointing. And he was disappointing again today. He only had 1 catch for 20 yards. Josh Palmer, he continues to be solid. He's underrated, I feel like, at this point. He's been solid every year he's been with the Chargers. Keenan Allen wasn't as great today as he has been this year. And then on the Chiefs side of the ball, they were able to just win the game, dominate kind of. Mahomes and Kelsey dominated. Mahomes 400 yards, his 10th time doing that, and Kelsey had 12 catches for 179 yards and a touchdown. Mahomes was also able to find Marquez Valdez-Scantling for a touchdown, so nice to see him get with the receiver. And during the week, the Chiefs were able to acquire Mecole Hardman back from the Jets. He had a nice 50-yard punt return touchdown. He's got a new number with him, though. He's number 12 now. Chris Jones lost his sack streak finally, so hate to see that. But the Chiefs defense showed out again. They're the youngest defense, and they continue to dominate.
Yeah, Mecole Hardman's gonna go catch a touchdown in the Super Bowl, isn't he? It feels like that's gonna happen. I know. I believe it was Romo talking about the Hardman edition, and he said it was very Patriot-esque to go get one of your former players midseason when you find a problem, they don't have receivers, you go and get back one of your guys that has been nothing but reliable for you and isn't doing anything for their current team with Mecole and the Jets. And they get him today. He only has 1 catch on 3 targets today. Like you said, he had the punt return touchdown. And when he gets more involved, gets a full week of practice in, he'll be right where he needs to be and slot himself probably as a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1 maybe in this offense outside of Kelsey. Kelsey, 12 catches for 179 yards and a touchdown today. Kelsey is just a freak. He's playing injured, and it doesn't matter. Back-to-back weeks of him being amazing, and at the end of the day, it's Mahomes and Kelsey, and they're going to find ways to win games. And they very well the Lions played well in that first game against them week 1. And I think even with Kelsey and Chris Jones, I think the Lions were just ready for that game, and they were going to get up for it either way. But regardless, that's their only loss. And if they have Kelsey and Chris Jones, they could have won that game and be sitting at 7-0 right now. But who knows? The Chiefs are probably going to go get that 1 seed no matter how they play and how underwhelming they may look at times. Their defense is playing great, and then their offense at the end of the day is going to score points when they need to.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it last week and maybe a couple weeks ago. Their receivers are very inexperienced outside of Kelsey, especially with Patrick Mahomes. Rashee Rice, he really showed up today, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, he showed up as well. So if they can get those type of performances out of guys that aren't Travis Kelsey, along with Travis Kelsey doing his weekly thing, this team can go really far, and that's not just because of Patrick Mahomes, and it's really because of the guys he's playing with. And we've been able to say that since Tyreek Hill. So, but yeah, Chargers are going to Charger. It's going to be very interesting to see your pick next week, Josh, with the Chargers and Bears, because you don't want to pick the Bears and they're playing the Chargers. Oh. So that's going to be terrible for you. You might just have to flip a coin, like live on, like live when we record. Jeez,
it's funny you think I'm picking the Bears, though. I'm almost 1,000%
Chargers.
Come on, bro.
I might just go Bears just because you're going
Justin
Chargers.
Herbert versus Tyson Badgett. No disrespect to D2 football, but come on now.
But I mean, I might pick the Bears just to spite you there.
Do it
just to see what happens. But,
do it.
We'll see. We still got a couple.
I could use a freebie.
Use a freebie. Okay. All right.
Yeah, we'll get to our
revisit this later. In a week.
Arguing about a game that we're not even talking about right now.
Yeah, but Chargers, they need to get back on track quickly. And the Chiefs, like you said, Josh, they could be sitting at 7-0 if they are healthy in week 1, but we'll never know. You can only play who's on your schedule. So I'm very impressed by the Chiefs, though, overcoming the Chris Jones injury, the Chris Jones holdout, and then the Travis Kelce getting injured multiple times so far this year.
Yeah. We'll get to it later, but our picks this week, this was a rough week to pick, man. A lot of surprising wins. This was one that we were all right on. But Chiefs, I'm very disappointed so far this year in Kadarius Toney. We went into the season thinking maybe he's their number one wide receiver, and he's been very disappointing this year. He talked a lot of trash to the Giants fans in the offseason, and he has not backed it up. Only one catch today. Expected more from him, but expected more from the Chiefs offense, really. Today they were kind of able to deliver, but they're the Chiefs. They got Andy Reid. They'll find ways to win games.
All right, next game here. Cardinals at Seahawks. Seahawks win 20-10 in this one. Overall, the Cardinals just once again they get shut out in the second half, and they continue a pattern where they just cannot score in the second half. I believe they were winning at halftime. Let me see here. I believe they were at halftime. They were down by 4 at halftime. 4. But they were in this game for sure. The Seahawks tried to play down to their opponent, as they tend to do with the Cardinals. And they got lucky in this one, though. 6-0 in the second half total. 2 field goals from the Seahawks, nothing from the Cardinals. And for the Cardinals, hopefully Kyler is back soon. Josh Dobbs has run his course in Arizona, and I'm ready to see talented and dynamic Kyler Murray come out there and scratch and claw some wins and show the Cardinals why he should be their quarterback, not Caleb Williams.
Yeah, this game wasn't like too interesting. Seattle basically just went in, took care of business at home, and got out of there without any major injuries. DK Metcalf did not play. He was a last minute inactive. I think he was dealing with a hamstring, maybe, if I remember correctly. But Kenneth Walker, another great game, did not find the end zone, unfortunately, on the ground. So that's unfortunate to see for the fantasy owners. But Jackson Smith and Jigba in DK's absence, he found the end zone for the first time in his young career. So that was nice to see. And Jake Bobo with a phenomenal one-handed catch over the shoulder, very George Pickens-esque in the right corner of the end zone. That was really fun to see. And as he said post-game, I'm just trying to be like 16. So that was really fun to see. But Cardinals, like you said, Josh, they got to be looking forward to getting Kyler back. If they had no intention of really playing him, they wouldn't have activated him off of IR or opened that 21-day practice window this early if they had no intention of playing him. So I think they want to get some reps with him under the new system to really evaluate if they want to keep him or if they are in position to get Caleb Williams or Drake May come draft season in April, then they may choose to do so.
Yeah, great game from Kenneth Walker again. Sadly, he loses his 4-game touchdown streak, but he gets 100 yards in the game. So good for him. Geno Smith played great in the first half, 12 of 15, 149 yards, 2 touchdowns. He wasn't able to get it going in the second half. Neither were the Cardinals. Like we said, the Cardinals continue to be maybe the worst second half team in the NFL. They are the worst second half team in the NFL, maybe the worst of all time. Geno Smith finished with 18 for 24, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Was not able to keep his second half up to par with his first half. Their first 4 possessions in the second half for the Seahawks were just not good. A field goal, interception, lost fumble, and a punt. And they're very lucky that they were playing a team that manages to play worse second halves than them. But they were able to get the job done. Like you said, Zach, shout out Jake Bobo, dog, JSN first touchdown, and just Seahawks did what they had to do.
Yeah, this is just a game that I just think just says a lot about the Seahawks. This is who they are. They play down to their opponents. They play up when they play good teams. You just can't really do that in this league. You can do that maybe when you play the Cardinals at home, but you can't do this against every team. They're going to get to a point where they're going to let a team that's bad hang in there, and then they're going to get beat, and then that could end up being a crucial loss for playoffs. I would be worried about the Seahawks a little bit. They are I struggle to say they're a bad team because they did go and they beat the Lions and they have quality wins, but just some of their wins just don't look pretty. Geno Smith has had another pick today. I believe I can't imagine he's had back-to-back games with picks in a long time with the Seahawks, if ever. But he has now eclipsed that. And yeah, thank God they have Kenneth Walker, and thank God that, like you guys said, the Cardinals are just not good at all in the second half of the season.
Yeah, they certainly struggle, but I mean, it's good to see that they do fight in the first half against some pretty decent teams like Seattle and the Rams when they played them earlier this year as well. Just talking in division, and I think they were with the Niners as well for a little while too. But that's all about building a culture. If you are lacking talent like the Cardinals are and some other teams around the league with a new coaching staff, it's good to really build a nice culture to bring that new influx of youth and maybe some talent in free agency the following year to let them come in and like know that, hey, we want to win. We got fire in our guts. We took the bus here. We drove here. We're killers out here. I mean, that's something you really look for if you're an Arizona Cardinal. But yeah, I mean, it's good to see that they keep fighting.
It all depends on what they're thinking about and if they got that fire in the stomach. But yeah, they played hard in the first half. I wish they just had the fire in the stomach in the second half. Maybe they'd have a couple more wins. But you touched on it, Josh. I'm really excited to see Kyler Murray back with this team. They said they didn't want to rush him, so I really would not expect him to play next week, maybe, but hopefully the week after he's back and ready to go. Since they activated his window, I think they have like only 3 weeks he has to officially be activated by then. Otherwise, he's done for the season. But excited to see him play and would definitely help the Bears with fighting with that Panthers for the first overall pick.
You think Kyler Murray takes the bus to practice?
No,
I would say no,
No.
but we'll see how that goes for them. Moving on here, Packers at Broncos. Jordan Love, I'll give you the credit, Zach. He has not looked good, especially these past couple of weeks. A lot of plays today where he just looked completely lost. A lot of bad throws against one of the worst defenses in the league. Has he had some good moments this season? Yes. Especially looking at that blowout win versus the Bears in week 1. He has had some good moments, but overall, he's been pretty underwhelming. And the Packers and the Vikings and the Bears are all now just in a murky 2-win spot in this division where the Lions are getting some space and play a lot of bad teams going forward, like we discussed already. Well, a lot of those teams are the bad teams they play, but regardless, the Packers offense just continues to have really bad first halves. They're shut out in the first half for the second time this season. The other time was that Saints game, which they did end up winning. They were shut out in the first 3 quarters of that game. Were they shut out in the first 3 quarters today as well? No, they had 10. They had 10 in the third.
Yeah, they put up a decent third.
But yeah, either way, they got shut out in the first half again. That last interception for Jordan Love was really bad. He had a wide receiver open on a cross underneath where he ended up throwing it. He ends up throwing it to, I believe it was Reed on the pick. I don't remember. Reed might have been the one underneath. I don't remember. But both safeties, Locke and Simmons, went to the receiver that he threw it to. That underneath crosser was wide open. He throws it in double coverage, gets picked, and that was the game right there pretty much. Denver didn't even end up getting a first down. They still ended up winning, ending the game on that. But yeah, Packers are now sitting at 2-4, and they play the Vikings, who are 2-4 as we speak now, but probably will be 2-5 at that point.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that would make me happier than a Bears Super Bowl is to watch the Packers franchise just burn to the ground. So seeing Jordan Love be just inadequate of running an offense as of now is it's great in my eyes. His interception, like you mentioned, Josh, absolutely atrocious. His 1 touchdown pass to Romeo Doubs, he should have let it more towards that back pylon. He did have a Surtain beat by a step, but he let it float, and just Doubs just went and made a play and won my fantasy matchup for me this week, which was great to see. So I celebrated very hard for a Packers touchdown for the first time in a very long time. But yeah, and I mean the second touchdown, straight up luck. He threw it to Romeo Doubs on a slant, and it was low and away. Should have been in on the chest in between the numbers, and it was tipped, and Jaden Reed somehow just corralled it. So Jordan Love does not impress me. He's just, if it weren't for a strong week 1 performance against a very sorry Bears team who came out flat, and a lucky Derek Carrless Saints team and a made field goal, they're sitting at like 1 win this year, and they are in contention for worst team in football, which I think is hilarious. Just biased and objectively, that's hilarious to me. And they had no pass catchers really show up today. AJ Dillon was their leading receiver, 2 catches for 34 yards. Again, just objectively hilarious in my eyes. I love seeing the Packers just crash and burn.
It's kind of objectively hilarious to me to be maybe one of the worst teams in football and being this happy that they're the worst team too. But hey, I don't know. I've never
I'm looking
seen.
for every shred of light that I
talking-
can.
That's
because my team is so
it's
poverty.
loser talk.
Yeah, that's
I was
really
there. I was
losing
there at one
crowd.
point.
Not
That's
just
just
one
wild.
point, quite a while.
That it was one long point.
Yeah. Packers, they're really a second half team. We've talked about this. They're the opposite of the Cardinals at this point. They weren't able to get it done today. Shout out Kareem Jackson. Continues to be, if there was like an award for dirtiest player in the NFL for a season, he's got, by far and away got it so far
Locked
this
it
year.
up.
I think he already had 4 fines for dirty hits, necessary roughnesses, and today he gets ejected for one that was just really dirty. Just took Musgrave's head off. Got ejected for it. Broncos defense was still able to win. Jordan Love wasn't great. I wasn't as low as Zach was on the young weapons. Jordan Love didn't have a good game, and the receivers looked all right. Jordan Reed had the nice touchdown. Dobbs had the nice touchdown. Musgrave was able to get 4 catches. Not much Aaron Jones. Was his first game back. A lot of AJ Dillon. He actually looked all right today. He struggled a lot this year, but Broncos get a win, and a lot of 2-win teams now.
Did Watson ever come back? I don't believe he did.
I
Right.
don't believe he did.
So that's
Yeah, I don't think so.
a big loss for them. Going forward. I personally have him as the best of the young receivers, even though it is kind of murky with them right now. With Kareem Jackson, sometimes you get too good and they start calling you dirty now. But he's something. Does the NFL at any point like step in and start taking games away? They have to, right?
I hope they do.
At some
I
point,
feel
Might
like
get one.
is going to be his 5th fine in 7 games. So
He should have got maybe a suspension after the Jacoby Myers hit, because that one was brutal.
I mean, they did. I mean, I guess they did take Vontaze Burfict's season away.
Yeah.
right.
Never forget.
Maybe we get to that point eventually, especially for a team that's sitting at 2-5, and the league knows that taking him out isn't going to massively affect anything, because this isn't a team that'll probably make the playoffs anyways. So maybe they step in and make some moves. But there you go, Sean Payton, pick up a second win, and like we said, similar to the NFC North, the AFC West is a division that has one team that's high and above the rest, and the other team's in a murky situation down at the bottom. Denver is they have the same amount of wins as the Chargers, 1 more loss, and they have 1 less win and 1 more loss than the Raiders. So they're right in it. They're not going to make the playoffs, but they definitely could be scrappy late and finish 3rd, maybe 2nd in this division if the Chargers keep imploding. But I got nothing else about this one.
Yeah, this is definitely a 1-horse race for the AFC West, in my opinion, as well. But I mean, at least the Broncos are starting to get their run game going. Javonte Williams averaged 5.5 yards a carry, and Jaleel McLaughlin, the surprising rookie, he averaged 9 yards a carry on only 5 carries, but it was still really good nonetheless. Russell Wilson did good enough to get the win, and Jerry Jeudy, he kind of bounced back from the whole Steve Smith encounter last week, so that was kind of fun to see. He had some really solid crispy routes on the outside for some solid gains today, so that was nice to see. And like you said, their secondary was reacting really well to a lot of the deep balls that Jordan Love was throwing, like the interception. Simmons and Locke both converged, so that's promising, I guess. But I don't see this Broncos team having every single one of their good players post trade deadline. If I had to guess, maybe Pat Surtain, if these losses keep amounting, even though they did win this week, I don't see them winning very much more. Maybe he could be requesting a trade, maybe Detroit, but I mean, I guess we'll never know. But
Lions might need it.
Yeah, he might. But I mean,
talk about going all in.
So do the Colts, though, at this point.
That is true.
We're talking playoffs teams there.
That's tough.
That's more than playoffs. That's multiple years.
Yeah, that is fair. That's fair.
But there are a few teams out there that would very much like to get Surtain's services. I mean, maybe depending on how the Cowboys feel, they could run a nice trio of Surtain, Gilmore, and Diggs next year. But I don't really know who you throw in the slot. And they could just let Surtain take over Diggs' role for their postseason push this year. But I don't know. There's probably a few other teams that I'm just forgetting that would be good fits for them. But yeah, Broncos, they got to win, help the Bears out with their draft position because they are tied right now because they're not tied. Bears have the tiebreaker in terms of draft position because Broncos beat them back in week 4.
You guys can have Judy, Mike. Don't worry about
Oh
Fiesta.
no, I know the Colts are, I guess, linked with Judy. I don't see that happening.
Baby Devonta.
Yeah, Devontae Baby. He's not. I guess he's not getting traded. They said they weren't considering trading him anymore.
The
Uh,
Broncos.
oh, Devontae. I was talking about Devontae.
No, I was just calling Judy Baby Devonta.
Oh. Yeah. I'm still trying to wrap my head around Devontae's perfect. I had completely just like forgot about the season-long suspension. Um, just crazy times to go back to that because the hit was on Jack Doyle on the Colts. I'm pretty sure.
Oof.
Just crazy times. I could see Kareem Jackson. I expect him to get suspended for a game or two.
Montez Perfect was almost, it was kind of maybe a
He'd done
makeup
it so
call
many
for
times.
the past couple ones against the Steelers.
Yeah, definitely. But the Packers, they're falling behind. It's the NFC North is a one team race at this point. The Lions are just going to coast into it. Uh, it's going to be interesting to see who falls in the bottom of that. Going to be a big game next week to really see what the NFC North looks like. And on the Broncos side, good game for Russell Wilson, good win. Their season's just in such a weird spot now that they're so far back that there's not much they can do, and they don't really have the talent. Their defense still seems to struggle, but good win for the Broncos.
All right, moving on here to Sunday night football game that just finished up here for us. Eagles go at home and beat the Dolphins. This game was kind of a tale of three sections, I would say. The Eagles dominated the beginning. They got up by 2 touchdowns early. The middle of the game, towards the end of the second or end of the first half, excuse me, and beginning of the second half. End of the first half, you get that touchdown drive from the Dolphins to make it 17-10 going into the half. And then you come into the second half, couple punts, turnover on downs from the Dolphins, and then you get the Jalen Hurts pick six to tie the game up at 17. And then after that, back to the last third of the game. Eagles dominate, score 2 touchdowns, win this game easy. The way the Eagles responded to that pick six from Jalen Hurts on offense showed a lot to me, especially because this is the Eagles offense that has been shaky at times. They go and they score. The defense gets them a pick. They score again off that pick. And the defense gets a stop in the final section of the game. And that was pretty much it for this game. Game kind of flew by pretty quickly, I would say. Maybe it's just because we were in the middle of recording this. But it seemed like at one point it was going to be, oh, are we going to have to stop and wait for this game to end when we get here? And this game's been over for about 20 minutes now. We're just starting to talk about it. But the Eagles are now sitting at 6-1 with that one really bad loss to the Jets. They could easily be sitting at 7-0. And what a way to bounce back from the Eagles at home.
Yeah, this was one of those games where you kind of realize that this is what the Eagles are capable of against a really good team. Their defense, you tweeted about it. That's why they call Darius Slay Big Play Slay. They call him that for a reason.
Yes, sir.
He got that really nice interception
Yes,
on the
sir.
underthrown ball to Raheem Mostert in the front right corner of the end zone. He took it back for, I think, I don't know, 20, 25 yards maybe. But this was also a game where you realize that this is why the Eagles went out and got A.J. Brown. 10 catches for 137 yards and a touchdown. A lot of big plays in the second half of the game to kind of lead that charge of resurgence after the Dolphins kind of gained momentum after that pick six. And the Eagles really, this is the offense that I expected. DeAndre Swift getting just under like 20 carries, still getting a solid amount of yards, being able to use play action really well. Jalen Hurts, he looked a little hobbled when he ran. Like he wasn't limping or anything, but he looked like a tick slow when he was running on scrambles, in my opinion. But he found Dallas Goedert a lot. Devonta Smith had a couple really nice catches. He had one drop where he was kind of sandwiched in the first quarter, which I really wanted him to come down with for fantasy reasons, but we don't got to worry about that. But Jalen Hurts, the brotherly shove, tush push, illegal play, whatever you want to call it, they used that on the goal line and got Hurts in. And yeah, Eagles earned this win. Unfortunately, the Dolphins do fall to 5-2, and they only have a 1-game lead on the seemingly struggling Buffalo Bills right now.
Yeah, another game with a bad officiating play. I don't know if you guys saw it. Cedric Wilson. It was 4th and 3 for the Dolphins. Chance this was to still, I think, tie at 17-17, but just got completely face mask ripped from him by James Bradbury. Ref didn't throw the flag. So I'm gonna, for the next couple weeks, I'm just gonna go off on every bad ref play I see. But the tush push continues to just be a dominant play. 4th down, 4th and inches on your own side of the field. they didn't even hesitate. They hurried up, went to the line. All 22 players were within 5 yards of each other, and they ended up gaining like 4 yards on the play. So the Eagles are just so good at that play. It's impressive. And you touched on it, Zach. AJ Brown just continues to be, at this point, he's got to be a top 5, top 3 receiver in football right now. 5 straight games with 125 plus yards. And right now, he has 809 receiving yards already, which is more than the entire Titans team have combined receiving yards. They only have 700.
That was a mean stat. That was a mean stat.
Crazy.
So, shout out the Titans for trading away just one of the best receivers in football. You guys touched on the Jalen Hurts pick 6. They were able to respond great. This Eagles team, this may be their best all-around performance of the year.
Yeah, AJ Brown has been fantastic. Like you said, with that disrespectful ass stat to the Titans, he's just been dominant. I'm happy to see the Eagles offense look good because there are a lot of great teams in this league. Well, maybe I'm not happy to see them look good. I'm not going to act like I am, but I guess for them, it's good that they look good. And they can restore themselves as a dominant team. Their defense played really well today. Their defense, especially in the secondary, hasn't been great. Big play Slay had that huge pick towards the end for them. And they're starting to get healthy now. They have him back, and they have Jalen Carter back. We all picked the Dolphins. We were all wrong on that one.
That was common this week that we were all wrong.
Yeah. I made the adjustment, and I ended up fading us and taking the Eagles betting tonight just because I was like, we've been wrong all day. We're probably going to be wrong again. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I take the Vikings tomorrow night. Definitely not. But yeah, huge win for the Eagles, and they're just going to keep restoring themselves at the top of this division. The Cowboys not play this week. Were they in bye?
I think they had a bye.
Damn, for some reason I don't remember them being one of the teams who talked about being on bye. But they're building more space from the Cowboys, and then the Commanders and the Giants seem to be dog shit. So they could be coasting come week 14 at this point. Who knows?
Yeah, this is definitely going to be an interesting seeding wise with them, Niners, Lions, maybe the Cowboys if they sneak in and take a game from Philly and Philly loses a game that they shouldn't. But I don't really see that happening. But I really like how Philly's run defense was early in this game. They held Raheem Mostert to like -8 yards until like halftime or something like that. Then as the game kind of went on, they kind of stretched out the Dolphins kind of stretched out the Eagles defense and kind of gave Mostert a few more lanes to run through. So he ended up finishing with 45 on 9 carries. Tyreek Hill, he unfortunately did not break 1,000 yards tonight. After his first catch, I told myself he's going to break 1,000 tonight, and it's only been 7 weeks, but he didn't even break 100 tonight, which was unfortunate. He did get the receptions, and he honestly could have if he didn't drop that one pass on the was it a second or a third down across the middle of the field that he like basically like caught, turned his head, bounced it off his knee, and it just went out of bounds, but it was ruled incomplete. So he could have finished with 2 touchdowns and over 100 yards, but one drop can really cost you. Jalen Waddle did get hurt at one point, so he came out for a series or two, but he came back and he seemed fine. He made a couple nice catches after he came back in. And outside of that, I think that's about it for me.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw before the game, Rodney Harrison said Eli Apple ran past him and said, tonight is going to be an Eli night. Kind of insinuating that he was going to have a dominant game. He obviously didn't. AJ Brown had a big game. Devontae Smith.
It wasn't Eli night, actually. He was
was
kind of right about that.
Yeah, I mean, Eli Knight giving up yards.
Yeah.
Eagles defense, they played great. The Dolphins only scored 10 points on the offensive side of the ball. The pick 6 was the other 7, like we touched on. Their offense statistically looks all right. I mean, Tyreek Hill 11 catches again. Tua had 216 yards of a touchdown, but they weren't able to get it done. Eagles were the better team on both sides of the ball. Big game from Hassan Reddick again. I thought he had a sack, but it doesn't say he has one. So, Eagles, good win. Continue to get the job done. Their best win so far this year.
All right, so that about does it for our Week 7 recap of the NFL. We will be back at it recording Tuesday night for Wednesday's episode. In that episode, we will be recapping this past Monday Night Football game, which will be tomorrow night. This past week in college football, Week 8, We will be previewing the NBA season, which starts on Tuesday night. So we'll get into that a little bit, give a few predictions, maybe talk conference final predictions and whatnot. And then we will, of course, preview week 8 of the NFL season. So that will be a big episode. Be ready for that one on Wednesday. Until then, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you see whenever we drop a new video. Follow all of our socials in the description. And as always, we'll see everyone in the next one.